fear and keep hope alive. Be the change that you want to see. Be the wrench inside the machine. Is it already over? Is it already over? I don't think it's over. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday night special live edition of Small Town Underground. Thank you for being here. If you're new, we've got quite a bit of people that have started following the channel in light of the recent events and the vigils that we have been taping this week. Welcome to Small Town Underground. This is a great night to get started on our normal Wednesday night show. I got a great special guest who's been on with us before, and we're going to get to meet him soon. His name is Dan Abbott. And Dan, I'm going to introduce you in just a second. Again, if you're new to this, like, subscribe, share it to groups. Let's get this message out here. We try to bring guests in every week that we can have a good conversation with, and keep the turning point happening. Right, keep the things going in this culture war that we're fighting, moving in the right direction. And I do have several already recorded special interviews and highlights that I'm trying to get out. So, and without bombarding the system, I'm doing it one day at a time. So you'll see more content coming out in the next coming days. And also, you can go to Roy Hambrick on Facebook and find the event link for the 2025 Patriot Campout. We're continually ramping it up. It's going to be an absolute blast, and I'm going to be doing a lot of advertising in this next week and updating the event. Dan Abbott is going to be one of our speakers that's going to be there. We're super excited to finally, I'm going to be able to meet him in person, and you're going to be able to sit down and pick his brain and just take it all in as we come together in fellowship. So super excited. But Dan, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Well, or as well as can be expected, I guess.
Right. Right.
Considering the current state of our republic.
Absolutely. It's been a very trying week. It's no coincidence that Turning Point USA is now a turning point or an inflection point, if you will. And it's sort of the Band-Aid ripping off of society, right? These things have been festering so long kind of under the ground, and now they're coming up. People are showing their true colors, and that real divide is being kind of thrown out there. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very accurate, that this has been there and festering for a generation, and has just more recently kind of ramped up or come to our attention. And now, because of what happened with Charlie, it's just in our face to the point where no one can ignore it anymore.
Right. You can't. I think that it's just, everybody knows who Charlie Kirk is, and the more that I research into him, especially the last couple of months, I'm blown away by his message. And I didn't know this, but I believe that was like his first stop on his tour. I believe I'm not 100% on that, but it was pretty close to the beginning of his next college campus tour. But man, he was coming alive. He was really speaking truths and going in directions that are uncomfortable to talk about. I mean, he always was on point and bringing people to God and Jesus. But I think that festering, that corrupt festering, was really, really coming out of his messaging here lately. And I think maybe that's one reason why this has happened. Because the closer you get to truth, right, the more they want to shut people up. And unfortunately, I feel like we've been stifled this year on a lot of things. The Epstein list and so many different things, the corruption in P. Diddy, you name all of these things. We're still waiting on arrests, and we've got a president in there who's, I believe in him. I believe in Trump. I believe he's doing everything he can, but we're really being able to see this deep state for what it is. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. And in reference to Trump, I think he's doing a great job.
Yes.
But I tell you what, the one thing that I think he has absolutely nailed this time around that maybe last time wasn't so great is the people he has surrounded himself with. I'm looking at the team he's built, everything from RFK to Pete Hegseth to JD Vance, and the list goes on and on and on. You look all around that administration, and it's just like, damn,
right.
The man has put together a team.
Yes.
And a lot of people have heard that little saying that it's something to the effect of like, you're the sum of your 5 closest friends or the 5 people you spend the most time with, or something to that effect. And I think that really kind of applies here. If you look at his top appointments, man is crushing it on appointments.
Well, I do agree. And that also goes to show you just how hard and how entrenched the deep state is, because even with that dream team, the opposition that we have had up through this entire year to move the ball forward, whether it be on the judicial level with the judges that continually try to block every executive order and try to block every step forward. You see this in the weak Republican Party that are not backing Donald Trump, that with the keys to them golden age, right? They're just ignoring a lot of these things that are going on and allowing this corruption to fester. And even with that dream team, they are fighting tooth and nail against a corrupt institution, and it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
But
I will learn. And of course, my experience, over the past couple of months, the past year and a half, really, has of course done nothing but strengthen my agreement with you on that. It's just it's more broken and more corrupt than I realized. Even I'm the commander of the largest constitutional militia in the nation. I'm pretty far to the right,
right.
And I've generally got a pretty negative view of people in politics.
Yeah, you've been put through the ringer as well. You can always remind the audience, especially people that are new here, what you've kind of went through yourself.
Well, yeah, on the 19th and 20th of July, I had a separation board. And the case that the government made was that I'm insubordinate and won't follow orders because I have misdemeanor convictions on my driving record, and because I challenged the legality and constitutionality of their policy that says I can't be a member of the unorganized militia, which is just utter nonsense, and it just doesn't even make any legal sense.
Right.
The funny thing is, the case that they made is that I'm insubordinate, but they did not call a single witness who has ever met me. They called no one from my chain of command, neither commissioned nor non-commissioned, no one that has ever served with me in any capacity whatsoever, not a single one. But it was a kangaroo court's foregone conclusion before it ever started. Right. So
now, is it
exercise?
Is there anything left in there? Is there any other hearings left or anything like that, or is this just a done deal as far as the military?
It's a done deal as far as the military forces in the state of Virginia are concerned. Major General Ring is the final authority, and he made the decision. He's the one that targeted me and wrote policies to come after me, and honestly, he's just jealous of me.
Right.
And
yeah.
So yeah, he's the final authority on it. So unless the Secretary of War, one of his senior officials, intervenes, it's pretty much case closed.
Right. I got you. And what a shame that is, but I believe that you're destined for bigger and better things, because I've obviously watched a lot of the stuff that you've done and what you talk about. I'm excited to bring that because we're volatility is what it feels like. Going through this after what we've been through in the last week, and believe me, my head continues to spin from basically the narrative changing every eight hours is what I've got it down to. Like, obviously, Charlie Kirk has lost his life, and there are a million conspiracy theories and videos to break down, and all of these things that come at you 100,000 times, and as much as I love this free speech and being able to put it out there, you really have to disseminate what you're looking at, you know?
Yeah. And so here's my thing on that, Roy. Obviously the murder of, what, I think a very strong case could be made that of all of the personalities, all of the podcasters, the commentators, the, political figures, everybody involved in politics, the politicians themselves and elected officials, and all of them, if you lined them all up, I think a very strong argument could be made that Charlie Kirk was the most Christ-like among them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I really would. The one man that would always listen, he was always patient, he was always gracious, would always listen to people's viewpoints. The one man that would always do that and always act Christ-like, and you murdered him.
Absolutely. You see him go up against people about abortion, about racism, and they stop them dead in their tracks. And it's like that look of dumbfoundedness, like, whoa, you just flipped the light switch on for me.
Right.
And all of these narratives that the left were running.
Here's the deal breaker for me, Roy.
Okay.
It's not that they killed him. I think a very strong argument could be made that he was wearing some kind of rifle plate. And, if a man's wearing a rifle plate, it's because he knows that he's a target.
Right.
So honestly, the fact that they murdered him does not necessarily surprise me, and that's not the most egregious part of it to me. Okay. And the reason that I say that is because if the left, the Democrat Party, had immediately denounced political violence, this is awful, this is horrific, we as a party do not stand for this, we won't tolerate it, this is inhuman. If that had been the reaction, I would have gone, okay, some fringe wacko did a horrific thing.
Exactly.
But the mainstream of the left danced in the streets and celebrated the murder of a man on national television. 100%. That's where you lost me. That's why I'm done.
Yeah.
Not because he got murdered.
Yes.
But because of the way that you reacted to it.
So I'm glad you said that about I'm done, because I've sat back and looked at a lot of things, and people are, they want to. I'm not talking about the left. I'm talking about on the right. There's this, we got to come together, the kumbaya and the love and all that. And I ultimately agree with that. The vigils that we had alone in our local communities just rekindled that bonfire together of community and Jesus and everything. But again, I think you kind of nailed it. Like, part of this turning point, especially for me, is that there is no coming back from this. Like, you cannot call yourself a Democrat and expect me to even respect your position when you own this. And they tried to blame this on conservatism, as always, and the rhetoric of Donald Trump. Right, Donald Trump's the reason. That is the biggest load of malarkey, and we know it. The mainstream media is a poison on our society. Getting paid by, go ahead.
That
I know it gets you mad, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it drives me absolutely nuts. And the reason that it drives me absolutely nuts is, I can't control what other people do. I can't control what they say. I can't even necessarily control the emotion that someone else's actions or speech elicits from me. But what I can control are my actions. I control my actions, and I control what I say. And so they can say whatever they want. They can try to blame whoever they want. No one is responsible for their actions other than them. Donald Trump did not hold a gun to your head and make you create some insane post on social media glorifying the murder of a Christian man.
Yeah, and that goes both ways. Neither would Joe Biden have, right? I mean,
correct.
Exactly. You're onto something. And when you have the media, I don't know if you saw this clip, and I'm not pulling it up, but I think it was CNN today that was when they released the text messages of this the alleged shooter and his boyfriend or whatever, and CNN was focusing on how powerful of a statement it was that he was cared more about his boyfriend and hurting his boyfriend than anything. And I mean, it just made it like this sappy love.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is you can't even wrap your mind around that, and it makes sense as far as like being sane. Again, the Democrat Party, at this point, and I've heard that they are losing people in droves. But how on earth can anybody hang their head up high and say I'm a Democrat after the crap that we're seeing here unfold?
Oh
It's
yeah, and I think that's why they are losing people in droves.
yes.
And I'll be honest with you, Roy, that concerns me a little bit because when those people are leaving the Democrat Party over the problem is that just because they have recognized that there are other people in the Democrat Party that they're not willing to associate with
Hmm.
or be counted with does not mean that they have changed their worldview.
That's right.
And so when you have a whole bunch of people who have a worldview that, in Nick Freitas's words, is diametrically opposed to my
Hmm.
worldview,
Yes.
that now join the party that I'm, loosely affiliated with,
Right.
um, that concerns me
Hmm.
because, it's just like the people that leave California because it's a
Exactly.
cesspool and they move to some other state and they bring their
They
politics
bring their
with them.
cesspool with them.
It's like, no, wait a minute.
Exactly.
Your stuff was broken because
Yep.
of your politics. Now you brought your broken politics over here because we're not broken. Like,
Yep. Yeah, we
it was
as the
like kind
saying,
of,
don't California my Georgia, but yet we already have Hollywood in our state. So I mean, we're rotting in this state. And and we go after our own because of like what you said, accountability, our transparency, self looking at ourself. So we're hard on our Republican Party because we demand better because the Republican Party are ultimately the gatekeepers that control this uniparty. And when
yeah,
you have the ball in your court and you can run that ball all the way across with no opposition and slam dunk things to a better way, and you have Republicans that are standing there holding the ball out just begging a Democrat to take it away from it. That's what we're dealing with here. Very few. In fact, we're going to get to that in a minute. The legislator that you were telling me about, and you said it so eloquently yourself. There's so few of these people that are involved in actual voting and legislation that it's hard for them to make a difference, right?
mhm.
I mean,
Yep, true,
it's craziness, and
true.
I'm worried about outside influences in our nation, other
Hmm.
nations
Or,
that control our politicians, deep pockets. Nick, Charlie was exposing a lot of that. I think we've let some of the things out of the bag that we're not going to be able to put back in. We're literally in an inflection point, and I mean we're just gonna have to ride this and see where it goes. But
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the world changed on the 10th,
yeah,
and we have yet to really see or understand how. I just know it's not the same as it was.
I do too. I feel it. I feel it in my soul and my bones, everywhere I look now. You know, and I want to make it very clear that if this destiny, I don't, you've probably seen some of this social media that's actually calling for more conservatives to be killed and to send a message to tell us that it's time for us to stop and lower the temperature. This only makes me want to get up and do more. It makes me want to be at every event and every function and have a security team at everywhere and let these people know that I don't know who they think they are, how emboldened these people think that they can come and tread on my communities and my religion and tread on my flag and my country to change it into this Marxist utopian nightmare.
Yeah,
But I will not stand down. I'm going to move forward, and just we are all going to move forward, and I will
mhm.
not bat an eye against anybody who opposes me.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely not. And
whew,
in my lifetime, I don't. And I feel like if this is not exactly the direction that we move in with this, I feel like we cheapen or maybe even cause the death of Charlie Kirk to be essentially worthless.
right,
You know, I never in my lifetime have I seen an opportunity for Christians to courageously proclaim the name of Christ
that's
like
right,
we have right now, and we're falling short. We're
right,
we're falling short. We should be jumping on this hands and feet to courageously proclaim the name of Christ. I can't
right.
tell you how many posts I have seen of people saying, I walked away from religion years ago, and today for the first time in 18 years I bowed my head.
That's right.
Or I darkened the door of a church for the first time in 30 years, and I have never seen that in America. Not after 9/11. Not ever in my lifetime. That
the providence,
because of the death of a faithful servant and a godly man, people are literally turning to Christ.
Yes.
And
it's a beautiful thing.
If we as Christian men are not boldly proclaiming the name of Christ and courageously preaching his word, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Amen. This nation's under conviction. Where are you going to stand? I have my buddy Antonio Warroom, and he says this a lot. He says sooner or later there's going to be that line drawn in the sand, and we're not necessarily drawing this line. I think that Charlie Kirk represent the sort of debate that we've begged for the better part of a decade, to where, hey, let's sit down at the table and let's discuss this. Let's talk about this like human beings. And we all understand that when you're brainwashed with this liberal ethos and it doesn't even make sense, obviously they're going to resort to violence because they can't argue with you. They can't debate you. So, we have constantly begged for people to sit down at the table and let's talk this out. And they have stripped their right of that. Like, there is no more talking. Nobody, like I said, I don't even think I can have a conversation with a Democrat on hardly anything.
I don't want to.
No,
I have no interest in having a conversation like you.
No.
I want to share one thing quick, and then if you're good with it, Roy, I'd like to read that post from Nick. I think it's super relevant to the conversation we're having right now. And I think, and this is not my own words. I stole this from somebody, but I don't remember where I heard it. It doesn't really matter. But when I heard this, I was like, yeah, that's why this makes me so angry. If people want to kill me, to a degree, I would kind of understand. I'm not the perfect Christian. I probably say things that I shouldn't. People would make the argument that I've got a violent streak in whatever, and I guess I could kind of understand it. And there are people that are like me in the political or media realm, and so I kind of understand it. But the guy that they killed is the guy that's like my dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My dad is the nicest, kindest man you would ever want to meet. He would never advocate for violence. He would always try to look for a peaceful solution. He always just wants to talk to people and share the gospel and tell them about Jesus and how he's changed his life. And that's who my dad is. And that's the kind of man that you chose to murder.
Right. Absolutely.
You chose to murder the kindest, most peaceful among us. And so, no, I got nothing left for you.
Right. Absolutely. And I would like you to share that. In fact, I'm going to pull up his, I found his Facebook, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here. And I'll try to find this, and let's see if I can find it. But wow, he's got his own podcast. But so we can kind of close out this. We're not going down any rabbit holes or conspiracies tonight. I've got my own little stuff I'm going to put out here. We just wanted to sort of start this off because I'm going to share something next that's going to move us into the constitutional militias. But I really thought it was very good what you had to read from Nick. So I want you to read it.
Yeah, this is Nick Freitas. He's a prior service Green Beret, and he serves in the Virginia House of Delegates. And this is off his Facebook page. It's dated September 10th. He does actually read this post in one of his podcasts, but I'm just going to read it out. I think it's exceptionally well said and well articulated. He says, I'm told that as a state representative, this is the moment where I'm supposed to express my heartfelt condolences and then stand in solidarity with those on the other side of the aisle as we condemn political violence and stand unified as one people. But we aren't one people, are we? The truth is, we haven't been for some time now. And there is really no point in pretending anymore, if there ever was. We are two very different peoples. We may occupy the same piece of geography, but that is where the similarities seem to abruptly end. I convinced myself for a long time, whenever the left called me a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a fascist, a threat to democracy, for even the most innocent of disagreements, that it was simply hyperbolic rhetoric done for effect. And now the effect is a widow and 2 orphaned children, because the left couldn't bear the thought of a peaceful man debating them and winning. I don't think they realize it yet, but murdering Charlie is going to be remembered as the day where we finally woke up to what this fight really is. It's not a civil dispute among fellow countrymen. It's a war between diametrically opposed worldviews which cannot peacefully coexist with one another. One side will win and one side will lose. Charlie tried to win that fight through argumentation, through discussion, through peaceful resolution of differences, and the other side murdered him. Not because he was extreme or inciting violence or any other hyperbolic slur they could hurl at him. They murdered him because he was effective, because he was unafraid, because he inspired others and made them feel like they had a voice, that they were not alone. And he did it in the very institutions which have fomented so much hatred toward conservatives. I don't want to stand in solidarity with the other side of the aisle. I want to defeat you. I want to defeat the godless ideology that kills babies in the womb, sterilizes confused children, and turns our cities into cesspools of degeneracy and lawlessness, and that murdered Charlie Kirk. Social media is aflame right now with leftist celebration of Charlie's death. I wonder if any among them understand what has just happened. If there is a Yamamoto somewhere in their midst warning that all they have done is awoken a sleeping giant. I doubt it. I think they gave up such introspection and self-awareness long ago. I don't know exactly what will happen next. I just know that it won't be the same as what has happened in the past. There will be thoughts and prayers. Charlie would have wanted prayers, not for himself, but those left behind and for the country that he loved. But then there will be a reckoning. My Christian faith requires me to love my enemies and pray for those who curse me. It does not require me to stand idly by in the midst of savagery and barbarism. Quite the opposite. So every time I feel tired, every time I feel discouraged or overwhelmed, I'm going to watch the video of a good man being murdered in Utah. I will force myself to watch it, and then I will return to the work of destroying the evil ideology responsible for that and so much more. Rest with God, Charlie. Your fight is over. Ours is just beginning.
Man, that is very, very powerful. And I did find it, and I was actually able to let it scroll as he was watching. So we're definitely going to get that reposted for people. That hit the nail on the head, man. It's wild. And so I want to kind of tie this in on the second part of the show with something that had come to my attention this evening, which will tie us all in together because we have a problem here. We're finding out quite a bit about like what I would consider terror cells, the trans community, the people that are gearing up and wanting to wreak havoc on our nation. And we're open calls for violence and even death to conservatism. So, and then we can't even get a couple of weeks, past another shooting on merciless killing on defenseless people, the craziness that's going on. And so I was telling Dan before I got on the show, because I've been thinking a lot about today, and God has a beautiful way of just putting something right in front of you that ties things in. And as we get into a little bit of constitutional militia, I'm thinking about all these attacks, and now they're everywhere. We're seeing them, all these people dancing in the streets. And lo and behold, my daughter had a function at our local high school, and we get there, and the first thing I find out was today that over 47 cars in the parking lot had been keyed. Okay? That's not normal when something like that happens. And obviously when you're plugged in a little bit more than just the normal people, and they would think, oh my gosh, 47 cars, somebody's just crazy. No, I honestly, and I will stand on this, that could have quite well been a message, right? Some disgruntled kids that are watching all these things going on. To me, that looked like a very, a message. 47 cars keyed in that parking lot. That's not just somebody randomly going through and on a key a couple are targeted. That was a mass keying of a bunch of cars that it didn't know who belonged to what. And so I feel like that's connected in a lot of ways, right? So I wanted to play this as we move in, and I want to get your thoughts on this. But it's a channel I follow called S2 Underground. My friend Tyler Martin had turned me on to it. It's a great little channel for anybody out there. It is basically like a sitcom channel, ex-military, and they just give it to you dry, and it's almost just like pure, this is what happened, and I love it. But on the way here, I listened to this, and I wanted to share it, and I wanted you to hear it too, and you tell me what you think. But here goes.
This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, September 17th, 2025. President's routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Medevac helicopter shot in Alabama. Vandalism continues at memorials around the United States. Vehicle ramming attack reported at FBI office in Pittsburgh. On the home front, in the United States, around the nation, various vandalism incidents continue at Charlie Kirk memorials. In North Carolina, a memorial was defaced at the UNC Wilmington campus, with the university making statements that passively endorse the behavior and that no action will be taken. In Florida, the memorials painted at the Graffiti Bridge in Pensacola have also been heavily defaced over the past 24 hours, and another memorial was defaced in Arkansas as well. In Pennsylvania this afternoon, multiple casualties were reported after police responded to a domestic disturbance call. 5 officers were wounded after a skirmish broke out at a rural property south of Spring Grove, with 3 officers remaining in critical condition as a result of the engagement. The suspect was recovered deceased at the scene. Also in Pennsylvania, overnight a vehicle ramming attack was reported at the FBI field office in Pittsburgh. Donald Henson was arrested after crashing his vehicle into the gates of the facility before fleeing the scene on foot. After a brief manhunt, the suspect was apprehended this morning. Analysts comment, though this was a targeted attack, this could be more of a case of mental illness rather than a more coherent attack. The suspect had painted statements on his vehicle and had previously been reported for erratic behavior by family members. In Arizona, a suspicious package was discovered outside the headquarters of Turning Point USA, which triggered a police response. EOD personnel were dispatched to examine the bag, which was determined to be a false alarm. In Alabama, this morning, one medevac helicopter was struck with effective surface to air fire or SAFIRE in the vicinity of County Road 51 in Autauga County. Local authorities arrested Peter Ellison for shooting a life flight helicopter in the process of responding to a medical emergency. Several rounds impacted the helicopter and one flight nurse was wounded during the attack. In Washington, D.C. this morning, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr made statements indicating an investigation into the ABC Corporation's licensing stipulations after comments were made during Jimmy Kimmel's show last night that falsely state that Tyler Robinson was a political conservative and conducted the murder of Charlie Kirk as a result of conservative ideology. Analyst comments for this wire. One of the follow-on effects of the Kirk assassination is the closer examination of platforms which have allowed open calls for violence over the years with no repercussions. This is why the CEOs of Twitch, Discord, Reddit, and Steam have been requested to testify before Congress next month regarding the overwhelmingly one-sided policing of content on their platforms. Several influencers and content streamers have openly called for violence against political conservatives for many years now, breaking many of these own companies' terms and conditions for content production. Nevertheless, the violent rhetoric has been allowed for so long that it's shifted out of the realm of a free speech issue and into the territory of quite literal attack planning efforts. The White House, mostly Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Trump himself, is doing an exceptionally poor job at describing this investigative effort, framing the issue without the nuance required to clearly state what is happening. However, as the violence from the political left has not decreased but rather increased after Kirk's murder, this is a detail very important for risk assessment at a time where the threats are becoming increasingly more serious. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, September 17th, 2024.
Okay, so he's listening to it now, folks. Sorry, they didn't go through the sound, and I have no idea why. But that was something that so in other words, the reason I want to bring that up is because I'm tying that into 47 cars being keyed. All of these acts, though, may not even be connected, but we're seeing these kinds of things happen more and more, and they're more brazen. And we've went through 6-7 days now of constant attacks, whether it be on the social media, in the gaming, like I said, Twitch, YouTube, the news media that has been being weaponized against us. What's happening with our administration as we move forward, plus all of these kind of conspiracy theories that we're making our minds run amok. So it makes me feel like that something like 47 cars being keyed in a high school parking lot is not just some kid that just decided to key a car. And these are battle cries that I believe that are possibly being, shared through these Discord channels and these gaming channels, and trying to get to the young people and give them ideas on how to strike. And I feel like that this is going to become more common practice. So let's see. I'm going to let Dan jump back on that in a minute, and we'll get his assessment as he finishes listening to that. But again, you folks might not agree with me, but we've got to question everything that's going on all around us, because it's everything could be connected. I mean, we're in a war. There's no question in my mind that we're in a war of culture, and so I think Dan's coming back on. So Dan, now that you got to hear that, kind of give me your assessment on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I am surprised, honestly, Roy. And the reason that I feel like I'm not surprised is because the left has shown their true colors in the past week. When you joyously celebrate the murder of a man who is, I fully understand that from a biblical standpoint, there is no one innocent. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And I fully understand that. But for the purposes of discussion, Charlie Kirk's an innocent man. And if you are going to celebrate that and sing and dance about it, nothing should surprise me, to include shooting at a medevac helicopter. Why? Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Like, what goes through your mind when you see a medevac helicopter, or any kind of helicopter for that matter, and your decision is, I'm going to shoot them down. I'm going to shoot at them with a high-powered rifle and wound a flight nurse. I mean, like, what is wrong with people? Have we failed that badly as a society?
Right.
That's like acceptable behavior? That's
exactly what I was saying. I was wanting to play that because when you hear about that, like 47 cars being keyed in a high school parking lot, what a prank. I can see a couple cars, but to me it seems like these are battle cries that are coming from these dark, seedy places that are trying to get to our children. Like maybe this was some sort of a retaliation effort on a disgruntled kid or something, to just go through and do that. And when you kind of combine all these things together, is this where we're at in this country, where nobody cares about anything or repercussions or accountability? You look at Luigi Mangione, celebrating in the streets these leftists because they had to take a couple of charges away from him because they weren't sure if they could charge him with terrorism. But again, these people are advocating him to be freed from prison for killing a man at point blank range in cold blood. And the brazenness, the hubris of this that is all over the place. And I don't see this coming from the right wing or the Republicans, the conservatives. We know that this is all coming from this evil sort of spiritual fog that has taken over these liberals. And I guess we are at that point, right?
Yeah, we are. I mean, at this point, the evidence it's absolutely irrefutable.
Right.
And
I know.
We've failed horribly as Christian men in America, that this is the condition of the finest republic in the history of the world. That Almighty God of the universe built the finest republic that has ever existed, and he entrusted it to us as Christian men to be good stewards of that which we were entrusted with. Right. And as I look around this country today, we have failed horrifically.
Right.
And the murder of Charlie Kirk is horrible, but I look back to the previous week or 2 weeks before that, where the girl was murdered on the train in Charlotte, and to me that one is even more horrifically egregious. And part of the reason that one hits me so hard is because we're talking about a young woman that fled a war zone, a place where she wasn't safe, and she could have gone anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Right. She could have gone anywhere.
Yes.
And
Fleeing a war zone.
Right. She fled a war zone. You don't flee a war zone to a possibly slightly less dangerous war zone. You flee to somewhere safe.
Yes.
And she came to the United States of America because we told her and we tell the world that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The safety of the world.
Right. What we told her is that there are Christian men here that will protect you.
Yeah.
There are Christian men here that are committed to defending the weak and the innocent. And not only did we fail to protect her, but we couldn't even find a person to care that she had been stabbed in the throat. We couldn't even find a person to tell her that everything was going to be all right. She bled out alone on the floor of a train.
Well, people were sitting around her. People were
surrounded by people.
Yes, in front and back. And nobody lifted a finger to do anything. It just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Yeah, and I just when that's where we are as a society, what do we do to recover from that? Where do we begin? And obviously I have very strong opinions about where to begin and how we move in the direction of I guess restoring the republic at this point. I don't know if there's anything left of it to save. Maybe we're rebuilding it. I don't know.
Well, what advice do you have for people like us that are still here where we see what's going on? We've got to focus on our communities, right? We want to protect our families and our communities. So what do you see as some maybe pointers that you in your teaching that we can kind of take away from this and focus on?
Well, from a biblical standpoint, I absolutely believe with everything that I am that as a biblical man, I have a responsibility to protect the weak and the innocent within my sphere of influence. Like that's part of my biblical responsibility or obligation as a man. And of course, all of us as Christian men, or I would hope all of us as Christian men would recognize that that's our families. Right. Are we supposed to protect our families? Absolutely. Protect and provide. That's our mandate. I would hope that we can all recognize that should extend to our churches as well. It's the job of biblical men to take care of that body. I believe that it absolutely unequivocally also extends to my community, to my state, to my nation, ultimately the world, and certainly to anywhere that I'm geographically co-located with people. I have a responsibility to them. That there's a lot to be said for. I remember exactly how that goes. Those who have the ability have the responsibility.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And we have a church body. We have other men in the church that help us take care of that responsibility. The responsibility to protect and provide for my family is mine alone. But then when we move into community, state, nation, that becomes a much more corporate responsibility. And the way that is put into action is through constitutional well-regulated militia.
Right.
And I believe that the founders understood that very keenly. There's a lot of things that we have at our disposal today in American society that just did not exist in the 1770s. Because if we're going to look at that word militia, we really need to be looking at it in historical context. Because, when I say militia to you or to really anyone else in America today, they immediately think of the goons in front of the Michigan Capitol building in looking like some kind of weird
the word has
costume
been
party.
dirtied up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the face masks and whatever,
pitchforks, you name it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Which incidentally is a narrative, in my opinion, that is deliberately created mm-hmm. by the left and by the mainstream media.
Right.
And
sure.
Well, let me go on just a little bit of a rabbit trail there. I think that narrative is very deliberately created. And if you go all the way back to the way that we teach history in reference to the American Revolution, we have latched onto this idea that colonial militia were these dirty, nasty people, and they were cowards. They couldn't fight, and they ran away. And thank God for the Continental Army. And if it hadn't been for Baron von Steuben and George Washington at Valley Forge, we never would have stood a chance. That just doesn't hold water from a historical.
Nothing can be
standpoint.
further from the truth, right? Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't hold water from a historical standpoint at all. For starters, we're going to talk about Continental Army. Who is the Continental Army? They're the militia.
They're the militia. There would be people inside the continent.
Training.
Exactly.
Better uniforms, possibly.
Right.
But if you look at the win-loss record for militia and you compare it to Continental Army, the math just does not add up. The Continental Army doesn't win battles. Mm-hmm. Constitutional militia wins battles. And, something that I think is very important to look at when we're assessing the effectiveness of military units and stuff like that is not just what the unit thinks of themselves, but really what the enemy thinks of them.
Right.
I think most everyone knows that the United States Marine Corps are called devil dogs. Mm-hmm. Well, why are they called that? Where did that name come from? Well, that came from Germany in World War I, because at the Battle of Belleau Wood, the Marines fought, in the words of the Germans, like devils. So they called them devil dogs. I think it's one of the brigades in the 82nd. It's called the Devil's Brigade. In Italy, at some point, during the war, they captured a diary from a German officer, and he wrote that these devils in baggy pants just pop up everywhere, and we just can't begin to contain them. And we don't even really know where they're coming from, and they fight like wild animals. And
right.
He's basically saying that we're just terrified of these guys. We just don't know what to do with them. We can't contain them. Mm-hmm. And the baggy pants, of course, were parachute pants. He was talking about 82nd Airborne paratroopers, and so they're called the Devil's Brigade to this day.
Wow.
And I think that it's very, very important when we look at military history to look at what the enemy think. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the writings of senior British officers, the evidence is irrefutable. They actually, early in the war, one of the senior officers said that he believed that the Americans were unbeatable on the North American continent. Mm. And there are countless reports. If you look at Cornwallis letters to other officers during that Southern campaign, the British were running with their tails between their legs, mm-hmm. and we cornered them at Yorktown. The reason that we ultimately had victory at Yorktown, yes, the French fleet preventing the ultimate escape was key, but the reason that they were at Yorktown is because they had been beaten everywhere that they turned in the Southern campaign by colonial militia, not by Continental Army.
Right.
And they had just been beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten. And Cornwallis says there's nowhere for us to go. Everywhere that we go, mm-hmm. we get stomped on. At Kings Mountain, Ferguson was called the finest soldier in the British Army, and they got absolutely trounced at Kings Mountain, and he got killed there.
Right.
And so the idea, and of course, everyone I think basically knows, anyone who's kind of a student of history knows that the Battle of Saratoga is a turning point of the American Revolution. Mm-hmm. But we don't understand or appreciate or fully grasp why that was and why that victory got the French involved, which it did. I was reading, my wife and I have done a lot of traveling to military historical sites from the Revolution. And one of the ones that we visited, of course, was the Saratoga battlefield. There's I think it's 100-foot tall granite obelisk there, which is super impressive. And of course, there's a memorial there. And on one of those plaques, it makes the statement that the Battle of Saratoga was the first time in world history that a British Imperial Army in its entirety had surrendered unconditionally on a battlefield. Literally laid down their arms and their cannons and their gunpowder and left without them.
Wow.
The first time in world history that anyone
impressive.
had out and out beat the British Empire on a battlefield and forced them to unconditionally surrender.
Right.
That's why the French took notice. They went, what? What just happened? Gentleman Johnny Burgoyne unconditionally surrendered with an intact army and laid down his arms and left without them? Impossible.
Right.
So, and again, there's no Continental Army there. This is colonial militia.
Right.
So
That's just people, families, communities that are banding together and protecting their own,
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So, in all of that said to say, obviously that was a bit of a rabbit trail there.
I like it.
But in the 1770s, which is what we need to be looking at, there were a whole bunch of organizations that did not exist then that do exist today. Obviously we have standing armies. We have huge law enforcement, just massive in America, everything from local, state, federal, all these 3-letter agencies, tons of law enforcement. Well, what else? What about fire departments?
EMTs, right.
Every community's got a fire department. Every community has some kind of ambulance service or EMS. What about departments of transportation that maintain infrastructure? What about commercial construction companies?
Right.
Things of that nature. Well, none of that existed in the 1770s. So yes, if we wanted to go to war, we needed militia. If the sheriff needed more manpower, going back to the 1770s, the sheriff was the law enforcement officer. But what if he needed more manpower? What did he do?
He deputized his community, I guess. Yeah.
Well, he would call out the militia.
Yes, I get. Yeah, basically that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, you're right. He called the militia.
And there's a later rendition of that, which is posse, which is the same thing. It's the able-bodied, positive contributing members of society, or the men in the community that are at the sheriff's disposal.
Right.
Well, what if what happened in North Carolina happened in the 1770s? Who do you call?
Oh, you would definitely call the militia.
You call the able-bodied men in your community if you got to rebuild roads and bridges and things of that nature.
Yes.
Same thing. If you have a fire, what do? Well, you call all the able-bodied men. So, the organizations were a lot more than just like little micro armies. They were more than just protection. Well, they were protection, but in a lot of different ways. And we've really lost that. Honestly, we have lost that idea of community in America.
I do agree.
And I think that's something very, very important to rebuild.
It is, and I think part of that has to do with the corporatocracy we live under. It's almost by design. I see a lot in my state. I don't know about your state. In fact, you live in Virginia, and you're like #1 state for data centers, right? And that's a whole nother discussion that we have. But we're fighting them down here in Georgia because our current governor wants us to be the #1 state of data centers. And so we're seeing our agricultural land, our rural communities be strategically targeted to put these things in. And it's like, it seems like we're losing communities. We talk to people in South Georgia that have seen their towns completely eroded by warehouses. So, I don't know how we get the community back. It seems like they just want to put us all in these apartment boxes and take all of our land away. It's kind of a scary time we're living in for that,
Yeah, it really is. And, I think part of that is a loss of our Christianity.
Getting back to nature, community, family, the things that really matter,
Yeah, and if we take our responsibility to safeguard our communities seriously as Christian men, well, you have to have community in order to do that.
Right.
We just live these disconnected lives. I mean, obviously, you and I really have no choice. You live in Georgia, I live in Virginia. If we want to interact, we have to do it digitally.
Right.
But as a culture, we have just just horrifically moved away from like actual personal human interaction and have gone to just digital mediums for everything.
Yeah.
And it's a detriment to us.
It is.
As Christian men, we should be gathering, as not just as Christian men, but as Christian families.
Yes.
We should be gathering face to face and spending real time with each other and in actual fellowship.
Agreed.
And, we're losing our country because of our apathy.
And the silver lining to this whole thing too could be that this tragic loss of life, combined with the subways killing and all of these things we're seeing now in real time, it's bringing a resurgence of people, like we talked about earlier in the show. People are they're running to Jesus, they're running to God and saying, "Help me." People are. All of this is this providential, stuff that we're seeing is really making a difference, and that's why Charlie Kirk didn't die in vain, and this poor girl in the subway didn't die in vain, because these things have to happen in order to wake people out of their slumber, to get them out.
Yeah, I saw a post on, I don't know, whatever, some kind of social media, and what they had done is they took the what Christ says on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? And they changed it slightly and superimposed it over the picture of him being murdered, and said, my God, why did you forsake him? And the number one comment on that was, he didn't forsake him, he exalted him.
Yes.
And I think that was excellent and well said. And I have never, I may have already said this, but I have never seen an event in my lifetime that has impacted people the way that this has.
Yes.
I would venture that God has already used this in a way, or used it to impact lives in a way that Charlie Kirk could never have imagined that it would have been used in his lifetime.
You're right. I tell people, I got into this long before the political battlefield. Second Amendment was my hill, and before COVID, we had 5 counties up in this area with amassing 20,000 people that were signing petitions and showing up and supporting each other. And when COVID hit, it killed that momentum. And I've never seen that momentum brought back like I have after what's happened here. And just to participate in a couple of these vigils and not know who was going to show up, and you end up with 400 people here and 1,000 people there, and that resurgence of community and faith being brought back together is truly an amazing thing. And there's more to come. People are setting it up, and I believe that's what we need, man. Wow.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we're going to go to comments, and we'll knock some of these out. So, good evening, everybody. The Antonio Jones, War Room, Georgia, had a powerful show on today. I didn't get to watch it all, but man, good show. I can't wait for you to meet Antonio. I hope you're going to get to meet him soon. And appreciate you being here, Charles Stoker. Appreciate you being here. Charles says, Charlie could not be bought for $150 million. He turned down Netanyahu down. So, yeah, and I'll go ahead and address this here because I'm certainly prepared myself on some things that I've seen that I'm connecting some dots on, and I don't think we wanted to make that. We didn't want to go down those rabbit holes tonight. We wanted to really focus on what we can do as communities to keep this flame going, but there's certainly some things that need to be discussed there. Holly Elizabeth Tari, good evening to you. She called into the show last week, and her phone call was so powerful, Dan. We had to cut it out and just put it as a standalone because it was every bit as powerful as a statement that you read by the other. Was it Nick Freitas? Yeah, it was good. Freitas. So people are really feeling it, really connected over this. Mike Pons says, happy 238th Constitution Day, y'all. You'll like Mike Pons. I think you're going to get to meet Mike as well. He is very well versed in the Constitution, Dan, and he'll be at the camp out with us. And I still got a little segment of something he sent me that I'm planning on covering soon. But yeah, War Room Georgia says, yes, equal accountability. I agree with that. across the board, and that's what we lack is equal accountability. Part of our sickness in our system is people just don't care because they're not being held accountable. They're not being held to a standard, And what's worse is we see that in the corporate world and in the political world. People just get a slap on the wrist. Nobody gets arrested. Nobody gets dealt with in the court system, and then that emboldens people to go into a convenience store and raid it and steal it. And nobody cares.
That was something that I discussed with a lot of people after the murder of the girl on the train.
Yes.
And I said, there's no consequences.
No consequences.
And people are like, oh, no, he's being charged with capital murder. And I was like, no, you're not listening to me. There are no consequences that, for acts that are that kind of just savage and barbaric and heinous, there needs to be immediate and violent consequences. Because, him maybe eventually getting a trial or maybe getting off on a technicality or maybe some kind of insanity plea, or maybe he does life in prison, or possibly he gets executed in 50 years by lethal injection and no one ever hears about it. No. That's not consequences. And it certainly is not a deterrent to other people doing that stuff.
Yeah, same goes in Mangione.
Consequences also need to be a deterrent. And if there are immediate, graphic, violent consequences for that kind of barbaric savagery, it will be a deterrent.
Well, that goes back to the Bible, an eye for an eye. I mean, come on. You're 100% right about that. And that's not a call to violence either, as somebody might take that out of context. You're exactly right. When you're living in a society that has zero consequences or accountability for anybody's actions, what do you think is going to happen when people realize? It's like I'm trying to think of a movie where, what was it, Die Hard 3? You remember Die Hard 3? Where Die Hard 3, there's a scene in there where they're trying to steal all the gold that's in Wall Street, and how they figure it out with John McClane's character is he catches this kid running out of a store with a bunch of bags of chips and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, slow down, kid. What are you doing?" He's like, "Man, look around. There are no cops. You could rob City Hall." And that's the mentality. Is whenever you take the policing away, the law enforcement away from a society, and because our laws are only as good as the people that as we hold them up to enforce them. You take all these things away, you slap people on the wrist. This guy in the subway, he'd been in jail like 14 times, just kept getting out and getting out. What do you think is going to happen? It's just
right. It's not the responsibility of law enforcement to prevent animals like that from committing the acts that they commit.
And you are
It's the
correct.
Responsibility of people.
The individual.
It's the responsibility of you and me and the 50 other people that were on that train.
Yes, you're right.
To stop stuff like that, because there's not a possible way for us to have a law enforcement on every 5 square feet of real estate in America. It's just it's not practical.
Right. You're right. It's the culture, the sickness of the culture. The entitlement syndrome is I like to refer it to. People that become they never do any self-reflection or self-responsibility, and they blame the entire world for their problems. They blame everybody, and they blame somebody because they're black or because of they're white or because they were oppressed, and that's where you get this equity, and then it brainwashes people into thinking that it's never their fault. It's the world's fault.
Right. And it's, if American men would take that responsibility seriously and actually execute that responsibility, protecting the weak and the innocent around, it would stop this stuff dead in its tracks. And quite honestly, it would stop it in fairly short order. Just based on the possibility that men were going to take care of their responsibility. And it's not really a theory, because I've been making the argument for years now that if you want to make the school shooting problem go away, really all you have to do, you don't necessarily have to arm people and put all these guards in schools and all of that kind of stuff. If you take down the signs that say gun-free school zone, and you replace them with signs that say teachers and staff are armed and authorized to use deadly force to protect students. The problem will go away.
Yep. A simple deterrent like that.
None of these animalistic cowards are going to roll the dice and go, gee, I wonder if that's actually true.
That's
I
right.
wonder how many of these teachers really are armed.
That's
Like,
right.
how good of shooters are they? Like,
Yes.
they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to
That's
go
right.
to a different
They
free
were going to
shooter.
go to a weaker, pick on something weaker always.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely. So, War Room Georgia's got a good one. It says Epstein, Mossad, and manipulation. We're back at the same place. These things tie into whoever was involved with Pedo Island, and boy, he's nailing some stuff there. So, yep. And I think War Room and I are going to have a conversation about that coming up as soon as some of this chaos, slows down a little bit. So. Trish Ann, hey, how do you listen to D2? It's actually S2 Underground, and Trish, I will send you a link to that channel. I think it's a great channel. I look for the driest intel that you can get, right? Even though we do what we know, we're not very dry. We're opinionated here, but that's a really good channel just to get you caught up on some of the drier stuff and good stuff. Jennifer Jones Hilligus, good to see you, Jennifer. And she says, y'all read the book Chaos by Tom McNeil. What has happened with Charlie is being handled just like Mr. McNeil explained in his book Chaos. It's similar to the way the CIA uses television to abuse the viewers. So thank you for sharing that with us. We'll have to check that out. Man, my man Greasy Boots. I can't wait to see you at the camp out, Greasy Boots. Good to see you tonight. He says, rename the Smith-Mundt Act, Charlie Kirk Act. Why are we here? Root cause propaganda. So I'm sure you are familiar with the Smith-Mundt Act. It's coming back up in the media. We're sharing it a lot. We definitely need to dismantle this propaganda that's being used on us. Okay. And Jennifer says, have y'all heard about Trump threatening to withhold $1.9 billion in aid for emergencies to states that are not supporting Israel companies? Woo! I'm telling you, people are on it. Our eyes are being awakened to some things, that's not an anti-Semitic comment or anything. But again, we're starting to see. Jennifer, you can go down the rabbit hole. 50 states want Israel, which is something I'm researching now that we won't cover tonight, but it might be a little mind blowing to you.
So here's where I'm at on Roy.
Sure.
Where I'm at on that, Roy.
Yes, please.
Like, ultimately, none of that matters if we put power back in the hands of the American people where it belongs.
And I agree with that.
Right now, we have a situation where the government does what it wants. Mm-hmm. And yes, a lot of conservatives are asleep right now because we have a friendly administration, generally speaking. And
our guard is down.
Great, everything's hunky-dory. But that's just not the reality, and that's not the way the system of government was designed to work.
Right.
And if you want to have government's undivided attention, take away the money.
Right. Exactly.
Take away the checkbook. But as it stands right now, they will compel you to obey because power resides in the hands of government, not in the hands of people where it belongs. So if we restore the Constitution, put real power, which is force of arms, threat of violence, in the hands of the American people at the local level, at boards of supervisors and city councils where it belongs, well, now all of a sudden you've created a scenario where you can say, no, government, you're not spending any more money because we're not giving you any more.
Right.
So until you get in line, we're not going to pay taxes.
That's right.
And they don't have the ability to compel you to obey because the force of arms will be in the hands of people where it belongs.
That's right.
So if you want to have control over your government, you have to take control of your government.
That's right. 100%. 100%. And she says that the party of peace and love are heinous murderers, and I cannot agree with you more. Let's see. War Room Georgia says that's where Charlie's work and his faith was key. Biblical principles are the glue, concrete, and mortar. The ideas are only a structure. Very well said.
Accurate. Very well said.
He also says Antifa has been designated as a terrorist organization by Trump, which I certainly agree with.
Is that new today? Because I don't think I've heard that.
I haven't seen it yet. Antonio's he's pretty up on things, so I'll be checking to see if that's actually came out. I hope it has actually, but we'll have to double check and make sure that is certain. I know they were talking about it.
I don't understand how it could take this long. I mean, their stated goal is to use violence.
Exactly. I'm with you on that 100%. So, all right, man. Well, look, I just want to remind everybody out there that, Dan Abbott is coming down from Virginia to be with us at the Patriot Campout. He's going to be there on Friday when we kick off. He's going to be with us Saturday. You guys need to come out and meet Dan and sit down. I can't wait for his presentation. It's very, very cool that we can be so far away but still share the same thoughts and ideas and conversation that I believe is going to continue to fight this sick culture that we have. And we're not slowing down. We're gonna have a big security team there. We're not gonna cower to anybody. So I urge all of you guys to come out with us at the Patriot Campout. And you can go to the link on Small Town Underground, Roy Hambrick. And I want to give you the last word of the night, Dan. Uh-oh. Hang on. Something happened. I can't hear you.
Oh, that was my fault. I had muted myself while you were talking, so I wasn't creating background noise.
I got you now.
Well, I tell you what, if you're good with it, Roy, why don't I close in a word of prayer?
That would be marvelous. I would love it.
Lord, we come before you and we thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to live in the greatest republic in the history of the world. And I just pray that you would help us, particularly as Christian men in America, to be good stewards of that republic. Thank you for the opportunity that you gave me to get on with Roy and talk about things of you and discuss strategies and ways to preserve and protect the republic and talk about history. Just thank you and praise you for that opportunity. And Lord, I know and I trust in your sovereignty, and I know that ultimately you are in control of everything. Nothing catches you by surprise or happens when you're not expecting it. And so certainly the death of Charlie Kirk is no different. And so, Lord, you tell us to pray, and so we will. But we also pray knowing that you are already doing and acting, and out of faithfulness, we're going to pray, Lord, that you would use this to further your kingdom, and that you would inspire Christian men in America to courageously preach the gospel of Christ, to take advantage of, really, Lord, what is ultimately a golden opportunity. The left intended it for evil, but you intended it for good. And I just pray that as Christian men in America, we would leap on this opportunity, hands and feet, and just courageously preach the name of Christ and shout it from the rooftops, and just ensure that the sacrifice of Charlie Kirk is not for nothing, that it would all go to further your kingdom. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for being here. I'm super excited to meet you on October the 4th and break bread with you and share ideas with everybody. And again, it's been a great show. I hope you guys got something out of it. You can continue to like this, subscribe, share it out to everybody. We are in a sick fight of a culture war, and we need these words out into the open. We need them to hear, people to hear these things and know that there's places that they can go, communities that will welcome them with open arms, and we will continue to fight together as one. So well, that's it. We got a couple of more shows that are coming out in the next 2 days that I think you guys will really like, and we're going to sign off of here. Dan, it's been a pleasure tonight. We appreciate you, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, sir.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.